Hi, everybody, and welcome to Sports Legends of the Carolinas. I'm your host, Scott Fowler, sports columnist at the Charlotte Observer. For this episode, we've taken the Sports Legends show on the road. We've driven 140 miles northeast from Charlotte to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And now we're inside the Dean Dome, UNC's basketball palace, about to interview UNC basketball legend Phil Ford.
Ford with a spin to the glass. It goes in. I don't believe it. Phil Ford, 360 degrees.
Phil Ford was a lot of things for UNC. The 1978 National Player of the Year for one, a longtime assistant basketball coach at UNC, and also the point guard who made the Four Corners famous. When Phil Ford held up four fingers back in the no-shot clock era, it was game over, because no one could run out the clock like Phil Ford. He held UNC's all-time scoring record for 30 years, until Tyler Hansbrough finally broke it in 2008, and Phil Ford still ranks number 2 all-time on that list. But when I think of Phil, I also think of something the former legendary UNC basketball coach Dean Smith told me in an interview. This was a number of years after Smith had retired. He said, quote, "There has never been a guy more loyal to Carolina than Phil. I can tell you that."
I never considered myself great in anything. Like I said, I had great coaching and great teammates. And, I just tried as hard as I possibly could, and it was fun. And I just happened to, from 5, 6 years old, football, basketball, and baseball, it was so much fun.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you're listening, and consider a digital subscription to the Charlotte Observer. We welcome Phil Ford next on Sports Legends of the Carolinas. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Let's start with the Four Corners a little bit, because it is an iconic thing that people remember from 40 years ago. And that's unusual. I mean, not many people have a trademark like that. Tell me kind of how that started.
Well, of course, it was the brainchild of Coach Smith, and it was something that we practiced on every day. It's just not something that Coach Smith thought of at the end of a game and told us to stall. We had rules and things you could do and you couldn't do. But to me, what made the Four Corners work, Scott, was, number one, you had to have 5 very good ball handlers on the court. Not only myself. John Kuster could play the middle, as he did his senior year in the ACC tournament, Eastern Regional. He was MVP. I mean, he could run the middle. Walter Davis. But the fact that I was in the middle, I think that I got a lot of the credit for Four Corners. But you had to have 5 very good ball handlers and 5 very good free throw shooters that could hit free throws in some tough situations, tied, won, so many seconds to play and stuff. And believe it or not, my job was to initially kind of act like we weren't going to score. I mean, like we weren't going to score. But if an opportunity came, we were going to, get a backdoor, get a layup. We were looking to score. And then the other team would go down a lot of times out of frustration and take a quick, bad shot. And it was very important for us to block out, get the rebound. We come down, do it again, and, we get up 7 or 8. And at that time, that was pretty much the game. But I do think I get a lot of credit for Four Corners. But, it had to have 5 very good players on the court to do a lot of good things for Four Corners to work.
And back then, there was no shot clock. There was also, I can't remember when the 1-and-1 rule changed. Were you shooting 1-and-1s on free throws all your career? I feel like you were.
We're talking about a few years ago.
Yeah,
I think so. I think we did have.
I feel like you had to always make, clutch free throws at the end, and of course that was a little time ago. You mentioned Walter Davis, and so I know through that you've known Hubert Davis probably forever.
Since he was elementary school.
Elementary school.
Yeah,
so tell me a little bit about that relationship and how you know.
I've got pictures in my phone with Walter and one of our managers, Jeff Mason, and myself, and Coach Davis when he can't be over 9 or 10 years old. And I've known him ever since then. He's been a great, great guy ever since then. He was a great player. He's a fighter. I know Walt begged Coach Smith to recruit him Coach Smith at first told him to go to George Washington, I think. And, Walt told Coach that he may not be your best player as a freshman, but at the time he's a senior, he'll be your best player, and he was. And went on to play 12, 14 years in the NBA. So, he knows what it is to fight.
He does, and what a first season the Tar Heels had.
I'm just so impressed with his leadership skills. When you look at our staff, Sully and Coach May and Coach Lebo and Coach Manuel and just all down the line, Coach Davis, as far as X's and O's, knowing what to do and how to do it and how to teach it. Those guys have had the best training in the world themselves and have done it before. But I think the part that, as a head coach, you don't get what you learn on the job is the leadership. He knew when to love them. He knew when to get on them. He knew exactly what to say to them because, to me, that team last year could have given up on themselves extremely easily. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Coach Davis wouldn't let him. And, to have those skills, it's just unbelievable. And maybe his spirituality has something to do with that. That's something we don't know. But I'm just totally impressed with our team and with our staff, how those guys just fought back, never kept, those are the type of guys you want in a foxhole with you, those type of guys.
Think they'll win the national championship in 2023?
I'm not going to jinx them because I don't think anybody knows, but I do believe that we're probably one of 20, 25 schools that could win it if everything goes well. Scott, you and I both know that in order to win that, you have to be very good, but you have to be lucky too.
Yes.
It's kind of funny. I was looking at Boston, Miami the other night, and everybody was just hyping about Game 7.
Yeah.
The big thing about Game 7. Well, the NCAA tournament is 6 Game 7s.
Back to back.
Yeah,
right.
And just sometimes the best team doesn't win, but luck is part of it.
Do you think you ever, when you either as a player or an assistant coach here for a dozen years or so, do you think you guys ever had the best team and didn't win?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
I do.
What particular
2 or 3
year?
times. I'm not going to go into the years, but 2 or 3 times, just off the top of my head, I thought we were better. But just because you're better,
it doesn't matter sometimes.
Very seldom does the best team win it every year. And you look at the team, I think, that wins the tournament, NCAA tournament. There's probably one game in there that they've had that could have gone either way.
Oh, for sure.
So
overtime, something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even the Tar Heels, I remember back in '82, and right,
Madison. I mean, the
James
first game
Madison.
I remember watching. Yeah.
Maybe should have lost that.
Yeah,
and then they come back, and Michael makes a shot, and there you go. Coach Smith has one. You got one here in '93.
Yes,
I think. Right. Were you guys clearly the best team that year?
I think we were the best team. As far as individual ability, maybe not, but as far as cohesiveness. Guys understanding their roles, guys liking each other, guys accepting their roles. We had somebody that could do everything: defend, shoot, score, rebound, handle the ball. We just had a very good team that year.
Tell me, Phil, about growing up in Rocky Mount. What was that like?
It was great. I wouldn't want to grow up in any other city in the world. It was the type of city where there was one high school in the city limits. There were some high schools in the county. It was 3 junior high schools in the city limits, but my 9th grade year, the 9th grade was integrated, so there was one 9th grade school, one 8th grade school, one 7th grade school, because then junior high was 7th, 8th, and 9th, and now I think it's 6, 7, and 8.
Yes.
But it was everybody kind of knew everybody. I was a daddy's boy, I guess you could say. My dad was a sharecropper's son, and that's why I admire him so much. And went on to get a master's degree. That's pretty impressive from where he started.
This was Big Phil we're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's not the height you reach, but the depth from which you came. And he came from a pretty deep spot.
Sharecropper's son, wow.
Yeah, and he couldn't play sports, so I think by me playing sports, he had a good time watching me play sports and as far as I can remember, 6, 7, 8 years old, football, basketball, and baseball. When I was 6 or 7 years old, a grown man could throw, some distance, could throw a ball to me as hard as he could, and I could catch it.
Really?
Yeah. My dad always thought I would have been a better baseball player.
Really?
But I couldn't hit, man. If you hit, I was a shortstop. If you hit it on that side of the field, I could go get it and throw you out. But when it came time to hit, I was terrible.
that short circuits a lot of baseball games, I think, especially the curveball once people hit that. Mm-hmm. And so your mom's name was Mabel.
Mabel, yeah, she was a French and English teacher.
And your dad taught as
history.
well?
Mm-hmm.
He taught history. Mm-hmm. And was this at your high school? Or was
No, I never went to the same school that...
Okay. But so I didn't know that, but you're saying your school was segregated up until 8th grade?
Yeah, in the first through 6th grade, which was elementary school in Rocky Mount, I went to an all-African-American elementary school called Annie W. Holland. Mm. And in the 7th and 8th grade, there was an all-African-American junior high. Now, integration had already occurred. You could go to I think it was called Freedom of Choice or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I chose to go to to J.W. Parker for the sports. Mm. And 7th and 8th grade, I went to J.W. Parker, which was all African-American. And then my 9th grade year, R.M. Wilson was the 9th grade school. George Edwards was the 8th grade school. And J.W. Parker was the 7th grade school.
Tell that story that I love about when Dean Smith came down to visit you, and your mom, who was really not a big basketball fan, mistook sort of his job at Chapel Hill.
I don't know. My mom was rolling over. She knows. No, it was just she wasn't a big sports fan. From organized basketball in the 7th grade through junior high school. 4 years of college, 7 years in the NBA. She may have gone to 3 games personally. I mean, she wasn't a big fan of sports. And, when I had narrowed it down to about 5 or 6 schools, when the schools were coming in to recruit me, my mom never was interested in sitting in on the meeting. It was usually my dad, my high school coach, Richard Hicks, and myself. And Coach Smith, it just happened that way. North Carolina just happened to be the last school in the first rotation of schools coming to Rocky Mount to visit my family and me. And that's when my mom wanted to sit in on the meeting because she thought that Dean Smith was the dean of a college and she was going to handle the academic part of it. She was happy that somebody was finally talking about me about academics instead of basketball all the time.
But I think you once told me that visit, in fact, was about a lot more than basketball.
It was. We didn't talk about first 30, 35 minutes, we didn't even bring up basketball. We talked about a lot of things. And then when we finally brought up basketball, that's when he told me that, I may have to play junior varsity. He wasn't sure where I'd fit in. And really? I think that's when my mom fell in love with him.
Sure, because he wasn't promising.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think? And you had an outstanding career here, became the all-time leading scorer, a record that finally was broken 30 years later by Tyler Hansbrough. But you were also known for toughness here. You mentioned Hubert Davis as a fighter and tough, but the story of you and the Tooth and I think Stan Rome or something. What's that? I'm not sure I'm getting it straight. Tell me that one, though, because it's legendary around here.
Yeah, Coach Smith used to use that all the time, and the guys got so tired of it.
Yeah.
But what really happened was ACC tournament my sophomore year, Stan Rome comes down and knocks my tooth out. And I didn't really know what it was in my mouth. I see it's my tooth, so I just dribble over to the trainer, hand him my tooth, and keep on playing.
No timeout. Mm-mm. You're still in the same position.
Yeah. So anytime somebody would get hurt, Coach Smith would use that. And he just used it so much that the guys got tired of it. and they start killing me, kidding me about, Coach Ford, tell us about the time that you jumped on the bomb and your arm came off and you dribble over, handed your arm That's J.R. Reed was the leader of that.
We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. 76, I think it was in 76, Clemson was Rome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all win that game, I guess? Probably.
Yes, we won that game, but we lost that year in the finals to Virginia.
Oh, right, the year that they had
the
run, yes. You loved it here. I think Dean Smith, and still do, right? I mean, this place, it's very fitting we're doing this interview in Chapel Hill. I guess just sort of speak to the influence that this place has had on you.
Well, this place is this place with me because, it began with Coach Smith. My relationship with him is such that up until the day he died, I looked at him like a father, a second father. And, academically, athletically, socially, Chapel Hill is everything that I thought it would be. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't hesitate once to come back here. It's interesting, when I was in the NBA, I met a lot of guys in the NBA that if they had to do it all over again, they wouldn't go to the school that they attended. And, I found that kind of strange, because if you're in the NBA, you probably had a pretty successful
career.
Yeah. And, this place is great. I love Chapel Hill, and I love the people here, and it's just always fun to come back here. Every time I come back here, I get those goosebumps.
Really?
Feeling.
Yeah. And how many games a year are you here for?
I come to every one.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're people forget how good of an NBA player you were. You were the number 2 overall draft pick in '78.
Right.
I can't remember who was 1.
Michael Thompson.
Michael Thompson. Okay.
Klay Thompson's dad.
Oh, right. Now known as Klay Thompson's dad. Mm-hmm. And played for the Kansas City Kings.
Right.
And then had a really freak injury that really kind of messed things up. Right?
Yeah, I did. It's called a blowout fracture of my left orbital. A guy named World B. Free, was making a baseball pass. I jumped up. Long story short, he stuck his thumb in my eye and pushed my eyeball down through the shell. And I have some double vision that I still have to this day. But up until that point, things were going pretty well. But after that point, I didn't handle things as well as I possibly should have off the court. And it kind of grew into a monster. And I battled that monster most of my adult life. Luckily, through spirituality and where I am right now, I don't battle that anymore. But I love the NBA. It was. I tell people it's a great job.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would agree. So it was a baseball pass. I didn't know that. Yeah. So he's taking full throw.
Right. Mm-hmm. And he hit it just right. And luckily, it didn't scratch or tear the retina or anything like that, or the cornea or anything. It just pushed the entire eyeball down through the shell that it sits on.
And do you wear glasses or contacts, or did you have surgery? Or
I did have to have surgery, and doctors told me that back then that they could go in and correct the double vision, but if I can't get 100%, I don't really want to be operated on. So I never had it operated on.
Really? Huh. And the monster you're speaking about is alcohol.
Is addiction. Mm-hmm.
And so how long did you struggle with that?
Off and on most of my adult life. There were periods of time in there, 6 years, 10 years where I was sober. But right now, I'm in a sober period, and it's been multiple years, which I'm thankful to Jesus Christ. And, I'm just at a great place in my life right now. I couldn't be happier.
Did you manage to fight that demon on your own with your family, or did you involve Alcoholics Anonymous?
Oh, yes. Alcoholics Anonymous, family, my spirituality, my faith, everything. It takes everything.
All of it, right? Yeah. So did your NBA career end because of that or the injury, or did you not? What kind of...
My skills.
Your skills eroded a little bit?
Your skills, the older you get, the skills you erode. And when you aren't taking care of your body, your skills erode a lot faster, and that's what happened to me.
Did you enjoy coaching college ball or NBA ball more?
It's totally different, Scott. They're two different games, and I try to tell my dad that. My dad was a college guy.
Oh, was he?
But I try to tell him, you have the best players on the planet playing out there, and it may look like they aren't trying, they aren't playing hard because but the things that they make look easy are very difficult to do. Yes. So I enjoy both of them. But the only place I ever taught in college coached in college was here. So it's hard to beat that.
Yes.
How much I love here. But I enjoy coaching in the pros too.
How many NBA teams did you coach with?
I started off in Detroit, and then I went to New York. And then I went to Charlotte 3.
Mm-hmm. Right. We intersected some in Charlotte with Larry Brown for a while. Had it going there.
And Sam Vincent was there.
Oh, okay. Oh, you did it for both of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. I know you made no secret of the fact that you wanted to have your head coaching job at some point in your life.
I said that I think every young coach would like to be a head coach, but the fact that it never happened, I understand. It's just something that never happened in my life. I mean, it doesn't. I don't lose sleep over anything, but I think every young coach looks forward to being a head coach.
I asked this question. I was doing this podcast episode with Dale Earnhardt Jr., the NASCAR driver, a little while ago, and said, "What would you tell yourself at age 25 that you know now that you didn't know then?" And Dale's response was, I would slap the out of myself. He was mad at himself at 25.
That's a great start.
Which was a good start, yeah. So I've now incorporated that question into all of these. So what would you tell yourself at 25, 28, 22, whatever?
I think, listen to my dad a little more.
There you go.
He used to always tell me as a kid growing up, because I always played in my neighborhood. When I was like in the first grade, I was playing basketball and sports and stuff with guys in the fifth and sixth grade because I was always the lowest one. And, they could go, I couldn't leave my street, and they could go all over the community. And my dad used to always tell me, don't grow up too fast. When you think about that in the whole realm of things, don't try to do too much too fast. I think that's some good advice.
That is. Don't try to grow up too fast. So hard not to. Isn't it funny when you're young, everyone wants to get old, and then when people get old, they wish they were young again.
Down. That's right. That's what I just told you guys. I said I knew I was going to get old, just didn't know it was going to come so fast.
You did everything you did in basketball without being able to dunk. Is that right?
So that had to come up. Huh?
You're the second guy we talked to that couldn't dunk. Muggsy couldn't dunk either. So
he probably has a high vertical in me, though.
He did have a pretty good vertical, yeah. But were you able? I think
I've never been
able to dunk.
I did it one time, I think, in high school in a pep rally.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably wasn't a real dunk. It was like a squeegee. Just
a squeegee.
Pushed it across the rim. But no, I never could jump that high.
Huh. But you were always around the rim, it seemed like, on those layups and stuff. Or did you just fake it? Did you just fake it real well that you had a leaping ability? Because I don't think of you as somebody who couldn't jump.
Yeah. I'd never dunked.
Yeah.
But, I was able to get to the rim.
Right. Maybe that was it.
Really
You're so quick. What was your main basketball skill? What do you think you did? What made it work for you?
I think I was blessed with quickness. Like you said, I'm not the most athletic guy in the world. I had great coaching my entire career. I had great teammates my entire career. I tried to do exactly what every coach I had told me to do. I wasn't really worried about how I looked or how I played. I just tried to do what they told me to do. And I figured that if I did what they told me to do, that means I played good.
Yeah. So, did you consider yourself a great shooter or just a great scorer?
I never considered myself great in anything. Like I said, I had great coaching and great teammates, and I just tried as hard as I possibly could, and it was fun. It was so much fun. I think that's what a lot of young people today have to ask themselves when they get involved in sports, and parents have to ask themselves, does their child really like it? Do they really enjoy it? And I just happened to, from the fifth from 5, 6 years old, football, basketball, and baseball.
You loved it.
I loved
football too. What position were you there?
Quarterback, but a guy named Frank Fields hit me so hard in the 9th grade. I said, I'm never playing this sport again. I still remember his name.
Frank Fields. Yeah. On another team?
It was in practice. It was in practice. Yeah, Iron Wilson, junior high in the 9th grade.
The high school you went to was called Rocky Mount.
Rocky Mount Senior High School.
That was all these are
10th, 11th, 12th. Yeah,
right.
and Rocky. R.M. Wilson was the first year of integration that I was talking about, where all the 9th graders went to the same school.
Yes.
We had 2 teams. It was R.M. Wilson Blue and R.M. Wilson Gold, and we were on R.M. Wilson Blue, and he was a big guy, and Coach blew the whistle, and I didn't hear it, and he didn't hear it, and I was there, and he creamed my clock.
How was you going to school during a time where it sounds like Rocky Mount was just getting fully integrated? I mean, did you experience any prejudice? No, because believe it or not, in a little town like Rocky Mount, we knew white guys that could play, because in the summer, in the park, everybody would know what park to go to and what day, and the better players would be at this park on that day, and you know whether a guy could play football, whether a guy can play basketball. So, we kind of knew each other that way. So it wasn't like you really going into something blind where you really never knew anybody or really had any contact with them. Thanks so much for listening to Sports Legends of the Carolinas. You've just heard the first half of our conversation, but there's much more to come.
In a sport like basketball, individual honors are great. I'm honored, and I know that I wouldn't have achieved anything without the coaching staff and without my teammates, but the ultimate is to be a national champion. I know I tell Joe Barry all the time that I trade him my number in the rafters for his national title.
For that, please purchase a premium subscription to our show, exclusively on Apple Podcasts. And for video of these interviews, visit charlotteobserver.com/sportslegends.
It has been showtime here by this man, number 1. Phil Ford of North Carolina does it again.
I'm Scott Fowler, and this is Sports Legends of the Carolinas. This show is produced by Jeff Seiner and Cotta Stevens, and the director of audio at McClatchy is Davin Coburn. For lots more content and to continue supporting this kind of work, please visit charlotteobserver.com/sportslegends and consider a digital subscription. Connect with me on Twitter at Scott_Fowler or by email at sfowler@charlotteobserver.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you like what you hear, please share with a friend. See you next week.